At Nectar, we're starting a mini series where we're interviewing millennials who are kind of a rare breed. They've stayed at their company for 4 or more years, which in today's world is actually crazy, right? Most millennials stick around, I think, 18 months to 2 years max. And so joining me today, I have a good friend of mine, Tyler Johnson, who has been at his company how many years now? 6 or 7 years, Tyler?
7 years coming up on 8.
Wow,
Is
that's
that right?
crazy.
Yeah, 7 years coming up on 8. This January will
And
be 8.
wow.
It's crazy.
So, pretty incredible feat, extremely rare. And so, I wanted to dive in with Tyler here just to better understand like why has he stayed at his company so long and just try to see what kind of insights we can draw from somebody who has decided not to jump ship after a year or two to join a different company.
Awesome.
So
Yeah,
that
no, I'm really excited to be here, by the way.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks for joining. So, just give us a quick intro of yourself. You already mentioned how long you've been at your company name, and also kind of your role.
Yeah, very cool. So I started working at Dental Intelligence. That's the name of the company. I started working at Dental Intelligence, like I said, 7 coming up on 8 years ago. When I started, we were a small startup. I was, I think, number 13. With people having left now, I think I'm actually like number 7, if I'm not 6 or 7, which is crazy. But yeah, started in support. So at the time, I was going to school and I was just working at the bank, and I didn't really enjoy what I was doing. I was just a teller. Not that being a teller is not a bad thing, but I just wasn't enjoying. I didn't feel like I had an actual career path. I didn't want to go into banking, and so I came across a job offering actually on my information systems page of UVU, my school that I was going to, and it's just totally random. I was like, Dental Intel, I have no idea what this is. And clicked on it, and I was like, well, I don't really enjoy working at the bank, so why not? Let's see what this is. And I sent a resume and ended up getting an interview. And the second that I sat down with the person who was interviewing me, Kelly Law, I knew that it was a fit. I had no idea what the implications of working at a startup were actually going to be, how difficult that is, and how you have to actually wear every kind of hat. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but it was the best decision I have ever made, because I started in support, worked there for a while. I was doing tech support, all sorts of support. I was one of our first support people, so I was doing everything, right? You're a startup. And then eventually worked into being a CSM. But while I was in support, one thing that was really cool about working for a startup is you get opportunities to do things. Like there's so much opportunity and need. And I saw a need in support. We were answering the exact same question like all the time, all day, every day. We were answering the same questions. And I was like, man, it would be so nice if we had like video content, articles, something like that, like a hub where our customers could go to get their questions answered. That way we're not having to repeat the exact same question over and over and over, or let's say answer in my case. And so I decided, I'm going to go buy a camera. I've never done videos at all, but I'm going to go buy a camera and see. I'm just going to come in on Saturdays and I'm going to make videos answering all of the most basic questions that get asked to me every single day. So I went and bought a camera. And me and my buddy Braden, who was also working with me in support, we would come in on Saturday mornings and we would film videos answering questions, to just frequently asked questions that we were getting in support. And we published the content. I learned how to edit, and we published the content. We showed it to the CEO, the COO, and they absolutely loved it. Anyway, it turned into, so then I went kind of the CSM route for a while, because we had the videos. Then I went the CSM route for a while, training our customers and whatnot, onboarding, all of that stuff, and then came back to videos and actually created an entire learning management system, which was absolutely incredible. So now that's like the primary way we onboard our customers is through our learning management system using videos, which is so awesome. So I guess all that to say, the opportunities that I've had for growth at Dental Intel have been absolutely critical and crucial to why I've stuck around. I know that's the primary reason you're doing this podcast. The primary reason I've stuck around is because I've had opportunities to grow. I've been given those opportunities to try new things and add value wherever I can. That was something our CEO always said every single day. And this was a riff on oh man, who was it?
I know what you're talking about, and
President. It was a president of the United States, and I can't remember his
it
name
was
right
John
now.
F. Kennedy, right? JFK.
John F. Kennedy, thank you. Yeah, JFK. He said, don't ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Our CEO would say the exact same thing every day. Don't ask what Dental Intel can do for you. Ask what you can do for Dental Intel. Every day, come in with that mindset, and you'll grow in this company. I promise you that. And that's exactly what I did. How can I add value? And they gave me those opportunities, and I ran with them, and it's just been awesome. So, sorry, that was a long story to tell you my backstory. I apologize.
No, that's great. And now, from my understanding, you're a product marketer there, right?
Yes. Yes. So,
And so you've
after
had
doing
this
the whole
cool
learning
like
management system,
support,
yeah,
CSM, product marketing, right? Yeah.
yeah, so I've been in almost like every type of like department, let's say, except for sales, of course. I haven't done sales, but I enable sales now, so that's cool. But yeah, so now I'm in product marketing and absolutely feel like I have landed exactly where I want and need to be. That like I get to use all my skill sets. I feel like I always have one foot in order, like I know what I'm doing, and one foot in chaos, where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I need to learn, and I need to improve. And it's just the best thing every day. I feel like I'm growing so much every day in this role.
That's awesome.
So it's awesome.
If we had to recap, if there was like one thing that kept you at Dental Intel as all 7 years, right? What would that one thing be?
That's a good question. Honestly, what I've always said to people, because another thing I do is I come and I meet with the new employees at Dental Intelligence, and I tell them every single day, or not every day, every time I meet with them, I get to wake up and know exactly what the work that I do every single day, I know that it's actually affecting real people and making an impact in real people's lives. I get to know that every day. That motivates me so much that working at Dental Intelligence, our purpose and our why is to actually help people. Like it, you know what I mean? And so that's been huge for me, is having a sense of purpose and a fulfillment in the work that I do every day that's probably the primary thing. All the other stuff, it's more selfish, right? The opportunities for growth and all that, it's great. But what keeps me at Dental Intelligence has been our purpose and our why.
Very strong purpose and why. Yeah, that's huge. And that is something we're hearing more and more in our own research and other discussions from the millennial workforce, is like purpose is so important. We're so purpose driven. It's so obviously everyone goes to work for a paycheck and to like feed their family and pay the bills, but paycheck is table stakes, right? Like every job offers you a paycheck and most of them are competitive, right? But it's like what keeps people, it seems like, and for kind of what you're saying, is this feeling of purpose and tying like your contribution to helping somebody somewhere, right? So I think that's really cool.
100%.
As far as like, I'm sure you've seen a ton of people leave Dental Intel just over the course of 7 years. People leave companies, right? A lot of your coworkers.
Yeah, in fact, recently I've seen there's been a lot of those original people that I was with. They've been leaving, and so like it's new leadership, it's new people, it's a new culture. It's been an interesting shift recently, actually. So it's funny you bring that up.
Yeah, it's like, what would you attribute people who are leaving companies? What would you attribute to that, or what would you say the main reason people leave would be from kind of what you're seeing on the ground?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And by the way, all of those original people, it was not because they weren't fulfilled by the work they were doing anymore. It was just they were moving on and doing something else. But for those that are like just attriting from the company, let's say, that's a good question.
Or even outside of Dental Intel, right? Like if you just like friends and family or people that are leaving, why do you think that is?
I would probably say they didn't feel like they belonged, or they weren't like a part of the community. Like the people maybe didn't bring them into the fold enough to make them feel like they actually belonged, or maybe they didn't resonate with the why and the purpose of the company quite as much. I don't know. I feel like in my experience, that's at least what I've personally seen is people saying like, I just didn't feel like I belonged or whatever. I feel like that's probably the primary reason.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. So you've been at Dental Intel from like 10 employees to now I think there's a couple hundred.
Almost
How
300.
has
Not to toot our horn, but
how has the culture evolved as you guys have grown, and how would you define like good culture?
Yeah, that's interesting. When we were small, I think it's easy to have great culture. You are like together all the time. You are like, for a lack of a better word, a band of brothers. You know, it's like you are a tight-knit group. And so it's almost easy. It's easier to have good culture when you're small. The bigger you get, I have learned that it is your culture, if you aren't being proactive about nurturing it and creating what you want it to be, it will get created for you and you may not like it. That just is going to happen.
100%.
It's something that you have to be very, very conscious of, proactive about. On our team and the product team that we've been recently doing a book club reading Start With Why, Simon Sinek. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with him. Phenomenal. Oh, yeah. That's been huge for us on the product team. Like we've been now trying to evangelize that of like, we, as a company, we start with why. Like everything, our culture is centered around why we do what we do. We want everybody to feel like they have a purpose when they're here, that we're not just a company who's here to make money. Obviously, a company is around to make money. That's obvious. Everybody knows that. But if that's all you talk about, then nobody's going to feel fulfilled by what you do. Yep. But if you talk about how we are here to help dental practices grow, you know, it's like we're here to help dental professionals grow. It's like that matters, and that actually will create a culture of like we care about people and we care about each other, you know. And so I guess all that to say that the bigger we've grown, now that we're like 300 people, like the culture definitely has shifted big time for sure. Like it's a completely different company than it was back then, but that's not always a bad thing. It just is different, and you need to be proactive about nurturing it and creating what you want it to become.
Well said. Yeah. I mean, we've kind of kept in touch for the whole journey, right? And so it has been fun asking you questions at each stage when you're 10 employees, when you're 50, when you're 100, and now above 300, just seeing how it evolves. And like you said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can get bad really fast if you're not very deliberate and proactive and like working to build strategy around culture building and like enabling people to feel that the empathy that you have for them, the trust, making sure that they're recognized, making sure that they feel connected with their coworkers and like that sense of community. But also, as you mentioned from the beginning, like that opportunity to grow and that forward movement is important. And then last thing you mentioned was the alignment factor of being really bought into the mission and the purpose and the why, which I love. So
yeah, no, 100%.
Really good stuff.
And like I said earlier, it's the bigger you get, the harder it will become to do that. When you're small, you're all in the same room. It's easy to recognize people when they do something great. It's easy. It just kind of happens, right?
Yep.
When you get bigger, it's going to become more difficult. You're going to become more siloed. You shouldn't. And there's things that you can do to not, and you should try not to, but it's going to happen. That's just kind of inevitable, and you just have to be much more proactive. You have to have like systems and processes in place to make sure that you're recognizing people and making them feel valued. And so it becomes more difficult, but that doesn't mean that it can't be done.
Agreed. Well, dude, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, shooting the breeze a little bit on why you've stayed, and excited to stay in touch on the journey and see how long you end up lasting, man.
I know. I'm excited to see what happens as well. I have no intentions of leaving, by the way. So.
Right. Yeah. I know. No worries, man. Love it. Well, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, for sure.